Tom Traferatops and Friends See the World Through a STEM Lens. Written by Anna Hanrahan. Narrated by Brad Grahowski. Tom stood in the classroom and stared at his desk. There, lying on top of the stone surface, was what looked like a magnifying glass, but without a lens. Tom saw them on all of his other classmates' desks, too, but so far, he was the only one who had noticed. "I wonder what these are for," he thought to himself. Tom often noticed things that others didn't. You see, Tom is a Traferatops, which is like a Triceratops, but a little bit different. Being different made it easy for Tom to see many other differences in the world around him, but most of the time he had decided to just keep those observations to himself. A few moments later, Miss Ankylosaurus thudded her tail on the ground. "Class, please find your seats." As the students approached their desks, they noticed the magnifying glasses, and the sound in the room changed from soft chatter to a buzz of excitement.
"Will we do a science experiment with these magnifying glasses?"
asked Troy T-Rex.
"Maybe we will find bugs and look at them up close,"
yelled Kate Critosaurus. The students reached for the magnifying glasses, and like Tom, they quickly realized that they were made of cardboard and had no lenses.
"Hey,"
exclaimed Josh Gixartosaurus.
"These aren't even real."
"Students, as you can see, there are what look like magnifying glasses on your desks," began Miss Ankylosaurus. "It sounds like some of you already know that a real magnifying glass lets you see a thing more closely and in more detail. With the lens of a magnifying glass, you will often see things you have never noticed before. These particular magnifying glasses are different, though. These are called STEM lenses. You are still going to use them to look carefully at things, but in a different way." The dinosaurs looked at each other in confusion. A STEM lens? What was that? How will they be used to look at things in a different way? Miss Ankylosaurus reminded the class that they already knew a lot about STEM and asked for a volunteer to share. Tom was reluctant at first, but he really did remember a lot about STEM. He stood up and nervously scratched his horn as Miss Ankylosaurus nodded her encouragement.
"Well, I know the letters in STEM stand for science, technology, engineering, and math," Tom said. "But when we're learning about STEM, we try not to separate all of those different subjects. We try to make connections between them."
Tom looked at Miss Ankylosaurus, who asked him to continue.
"We also learned that STEM is all around us in the real world, and that it includes problem solving, being creative, and asking questions. STEM encourages us to always stay curious, and that it's okay to make mistakes."
"Excellent description, Tom," exclaimed Miss Ankylosaurus. "Stay curious. Ask questions. Make mistakes. That's exactly what we'll be doing today with the help of our STEM lenses." The students all looked at each other eagerly as they waited for more information. Tom was a bit confused about what exactly they were going to do, but he was excited to have a new project to explore. "Pick up your STEM lenses and follow me," said Miss Ankylosaurus. The class followed Miss Ankylosaurus onto the playground. "Looking at something through a STEM lens," she said, "means that you are looking at it in a way that makes you ask questions. You might wonder how or why it works the way it does. You might even imagine other ways you could use something. For example, an umbrella keeps you dry in the rain. But have you ever wondered if it could help a person float through the air? Or be turned upside down and used as a boat to float on the water?" The students nodded excitedly. They had all wondered about or even tried those things in the past. Through a STEM lens, you let your curiosity run wild. Today, you will look at items creatively through your STEM lenses and come up with new ideas and questions about items all around us. Sometimes you might even get to test those questions to find your answer. Josh raised his hand and said,
Miss A, I don't get it. What do you mean, look in a different way? We can only look at things with our eyes. What other way is there?
Miss Ankylosaurus smiled at Josh and said to the class, "Let's try something. I want everyone to look at that slide over there on the playground. You all know that a slide is fun to slide down, but try to think about that slide in a different way than how you are used to using it. What might you wonder about that slide?" All of the dinosaurs took a moment to look at the slide and think. Each of them had tons of memories of playing on the slide. They slowly raised up their STEM lenses one by one and looked curiously at the slide through them. As Brian Bambiraptor studied the slide, he said, "I always wondered if there was any way I could go down the slide faster." Josh added,
Me too. Vicky Velociraptor wins every time we race. If we held on to something heavy, would the extra weight pull us and help us go down the slide faster?
Pterotroodon asked.
Hey, how tall is that slide?
The dinosaurs all discussed their questions about the slide with one another. Miss Ankylosaurus listened to the questions the dinosaurs had about the slide and then asked them how they could find the answers.
We could do some experiments,
said Tom. The other dinosaurs chattered excitedly about that idea. Miss Ankylosaurus nodded. She divided the dinosaurs into pairs and asked them to pick a question about the slide they were curious about and come up with a plan on how to test it. For Tom, it was fun to see his classmates viewing the world in a different way, like he usually does. It reminded him that being a little different isn't something to be embarrassed about. All of a sudden, Tom's friends Kate Critosaurus and Brian Bambiraptor were raising an absolute ruckus as they went down the slide in all sorts of wacky positions. Tom couldn't help his curiosity, and he meandered over to get a better view. While one of them slid down, the other would take turns counting to see if they could find ways to go down the slide faster. "Here I come!" yelled Kate as she curled her body into a ball as tight as she could. "Look out below!" Brian roared as he threw himself down on his back and let his arms and legs sprawl out like a starfish. Tom couldn't help giggling at all of the absurd experimental positions they invented, and he was bubbling with curiosity to know which way was the fastest. "Well," asked Tom, "what's the trick to going faster?" Brian and Kate looked at each other and grinned. "You'll have to experiment for yourself to find that out," teased Kate. "Maybe you can find another way that's even faster."
Ow, 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 ow,
howled the voice from the side as Josh Jaxartosaurus slid down every step of the playground staircase. Up he jumped, dancing around and clutching his injured backside. "What on earth?" questioned Mrs. A. A dirty and defeated-looking Chad Corythosaurus shuffled over to explain.
Josh and I were sick of having to wait in line for the slide all the time at recess, so we decided to test whether anything else around here could be used as a slide. It was a total failure."
Chad rubbed the sore crest on his head.
"We went down the hill, the bent-over palm tree, the stairs, and everything, and all we got were scrapes and bruises."
"Oh, Chad," whispered Miss Ankylosaurus, trying hard not to crack a smile as Josh Jaxartosaurus continued running in circles, howling and holding his bum. "I don't think the two of you failed at all. In fact, this helped you realize that part of STEM is being okay with making mistakes. The way I see it, you succeeded in identifying some very important things dinosaurs should not try to slide down. I bet your friends will thank you." Tom liked what Mrs. A said. It was good to know that his failures and mistakes were all just parts of learning. Looking back, he could see many times in his life where overcoming a failure helped him grow. Behind him, Tom noticed a strange pile of objects jumbled at the bottom of the slide. "We were wondering if something heavy would go down the slide faster than something light," shouted Vicky Velociraptor when she saw the curious look on Tom's face. "Troy T-Rex and I did an experiment. First we found a big rock and a little rock and let them both slide down at the same time. Then we tried an acorn and a shoe. In one experiment, the heavier object went down the slide faster, and in the other experiment, the lighter object went down faster." Murmurs of confusion filled the playground as the other dinos heard what Vicky had said. How could this be, they all wondered. "Do you have any guesses as to why your experiment had different results?" Miss Ankylosaurus asked Vicky and Troy. Troy responded, "I think maybe going down the slide the fastest has something to do with the size and shape of the object and not the weight. Can we have more time to keep researching our theory?" Miss Ankylosaurus said, "Absolutely." Vicky and Troy jumped up and down with excitement. "Tara and Tom, what did you wonder about when looking at the slide through your STEM lenses?" asked Miss Ankylosaurus. "I wondered how tall the slide is," began Teratroodon. "But then I got frustrated because we don't have any rulers or measuring tape." Being naturally a little different, Tom had already realized there was an unusual way he and Tara could measure the slide, but he had been reluctant to share it. Now Tom was beginning to see the value of looking at things in a different way. He realized he can be proud of the uncommon ways he sees things. Tom cleared his throat and slowly began speaking. "Well, I know part of STEM learning is not giving up and coming up with creative ways of trying things. I remember last year we learned about measuring with non-standard units. So I think maybe we should try to measure the slide with something we do have." Tom picked up the shoe that Troy and Vicky had sent down the slide. He held it vertically and asked Tara to put her finger where the end of the shoe was. Then he moved the shoe just above where her finger was and kept repeating the process over and over until finally they got to the top of the slide. "This slide is approximately 16 Troy shoes tall," Tom said. The class all laughed. Tom couldn't help but be amazed at the interesting and thoughtful ways he and his classmates had looked at the slide through their STEM lenses, not to mention all the creative methods they used to test out their questions. He wished these experiments could go on forever. On that thought, Tom slowly and shyly raised his hand. "Yes, Tom?" asked Miss Ankylosaurus. "Can we keep looking through our STEM lenses?" asked Tom. Miss Ankylosaurus smiled and said, "Yes, Tom. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you can always look at things through a STEM lens and stay curious, ask questions, and test your thinking. In fact, why don't you practice right now and have a STEM lens recess?" The dinosaurs all cheered and ran off to look at the world around them through their STEM lenses. About Tom, Trafera, and Trails. Tom the Traferatops is the official mascot of educational technology company Trafera. Trafera's goal is to help schools find the right tech for their students and teachers and help build powerful learning experiences in the classroom through technology integration. As part of their goal, Trafera built the Trails Digital Lesson Library with the help of a handful of award-winning TED Talk-giving educators. All Trails lessons are designed to help boost tech fluency in teachers and transform the learning experience. Keep Tom's story going with digital lessons from STEM at www.trails.trafera.com. And learn more about Trafera at www.trafera.com.